Gilgamesh, and I want to talk about a franchise called Terrifier and why I love this franchise. Well, it all started with two short films that Damien Lillian had directed. One was The Night Circle, and the other was the short called Terrifier. Well, he then put these two together in a movie that became known, and he directed it, called All Hallows Eve. Well, here's the thing: there's a middle story in this that felt like, as other people have said, it felt like they shoehorned it in to make this a full-length movie. And we get the beginning of Art the Clown, and he is played by a different actor. Here's the cast of and this is the actor who plays Art the Clown in the All Hallows Eve, which is the original Night Circle and short Terrifier. So, what this is, the first one, is that we have Sarah, and she's watching these two kids. Babysitting them while their parents are out, and the kids went trick-or-treating, and they come back, and there's this video cassette in, and they decide they want to watch this movie, but she's not, doesn't think it's good for her, she don't know what's on it, she's worried about, what this, and the kids are Tia and Timmy, and they vote, and they decide to put the video on. And the first story is called The Ninth Circle, which shows that Art works for the devil. Yeah, and he's somewhat has supernatural powers. And and he helps abduct a woman, take her to Satan, and essentially there's two other women there, and they're kept captive and impregnated. And one of them is killed. Well, two of them get killed after one gets the pregnant one. They rip out the baby, and they kill it. And Satan shows up. He drinks the baby's blood, and then he has sex with this woman, to start the whole thing over. And Art's only in it for a little, bit in that first one. And and then we get to the middle story of this, and it's really, like I said, it really didn't have anything to do with the rest of this. It felt like they were shoehorned in, and this is her character, Caroline, and she's moving in this house, and she's talking to a friend, and there's a painting of Art, which her husband doesn't remember painting, and and so it's all messed up. It's not very good. It's the weak of the stories. Other than the painting, there's no real connection to Art the Clown. And so we get to the final one, which is the short Terrifier. And this one we see what would become the look of our Art the Clown. The crooked nose, and like I said, Mike Giannielli, he played Art the Clown, and this one it sort of falls in line with the other Terrifiers, including 3, where this woman stops at a gas station to fill up because she's heading home, and she's talking to the guy working there, and essentially Art the Clown comes out. He made a mess, of course. He's doing his usual, mocking the guy, and sees this woman. We don't know what her name is, and he's so focused on her for the rest of the story, he's stalking her, and essentially he puts a plastic bag trying to suffocate her, but she's able to rip it open. Doors, anything locked is his weakness, and that that shows because he can't go through, she goes into this, getting away from Art and basically bars it. He can't get open. Then later we see him climbing out to get to her. And essentially she crashes her vehicle and then runs, gets into another car, telling the guy that, this guy right here, to help her, that this clown's trying to kill her, and then he shoots the driver, kidnaps her, and the messed up part about this is he cuts her arms and legs off, her breasts off, and he's like cuts in her cunt, slut, and bitch. And she's looking, and she basically can't, and he's laughing at her. Then, when that's all over, one point, the sister, Tia, gets scared and thinks there's something in the closet and goes and sleeps with her brother, and then, they show the tape. Art the Clown is like looking at the TV doing this, like he's trying to get into our world. And she looks back through like a mirror or something, sees Art back there, then she destroys the tape thinking it's over, and then, all of a sudden, Art the Clown standing at the top of the stairs laughing at her, and she opens the door and he's killed the kids. This is, I plays into a lot of Damien Lillian's when it comes to children in his movies getting killed. A lot of times he won't show the kids being killed, he'll show the aftermath of children being killed. And so, and so like this is the, and then we get to, this is the All Hallows Eve, and then this is Terrifier. This is where David Howard Thornton comes in as Art the Clown. This will be the defining look of Art the Clown. You sort of saw it here in the All Hallows, right there, but it's more defined here. This is what Art the Clown will look like going forward, except for the eyes. The eyes will change by the third film, and then we get to the cast. And what I love about this movie is my favorite character, besides Art the Clown, my favorite character is Dawn. Because when you hear what this actress, what Catherine went through to play Dawn, especially for what happens to her in the movie, she was apparently such a pro that she allowed herself to do a full body mold of her. And, I heard, David talked about how they put this stuff on so it's easy to get the mold off of you, like on your face. And apparently she had too much, and he mentioned that she was told to take it off, and she took too much of it, so it was like they couldn't get it off, so they had to take her to the hospital to slowly get the mold off of her, so that they could make the body double of her for the most famous scene in the whole movie. But I think in this one, one of the most terrifying scenes isn't even when Art the Clown is killing. It's the scene where the cat lady, they call her the cat lady in the movie, even though we see one scene with the cat, and then otherwise, she has this little doll, and we see her come back and find the doll missing, and she goes, and this is where I think is the most terrifying in the movie, is where she's talking to Art the Clown as if like a normal person, like a mother, and saying, have you ever and comforting him, and you see in his face, that's kind of very twisted how he's manipulating this woman. And essentially, we get sort of, beginning of this movie begins with, we find out her name's Victoria Hayes, and her face is messed up. And, well, we'll find out what happened there. And this is a year later after the massacre that happened. And, well, we find out later her name's Victoria Hayes, is the woman with the disfigure, and she does this interview, she's missing an eye, and she's got one eye, and she sort of talks about what she went through, and that she was in a mental hospital because she kind of, that's kind of hard to come back from having your face literally well, I won't give away yet what happens to her. But then the reporter, she obviously overhears the reporter absolutely talking shit about this, about Victoria, and so Vicky, and so she basically takes, as she laughs hysterically, she gouges, like pushes her fingers into her eyes, like take her eyesight away. And then we go back, like a year later. Oh yeah, the interviews, and you see Art the Clown. He's getting his makeup made up, glove, and then he destroys the TV because he doesn't like what he's hearing. Then we go to, we don't know who that is until you see the movie, who the woman with the messed up face is. I gave that bit away, and what we get is we see, and David Howard Thornton is amazing as Art the Clown. To be able to play this character and facially express everything without saying one word takes a lot to do. People don't know how hard it is to literally not talk at all during a movie. It is. It's really hard. Ask any actor who ever had to play a character where he's not allowed to talk. It's really, really difficult. And David's very funny. I've seen behind the scenes, and so we see Tara and her friend Dawn. Poor Dawn. And they've been to a party, and they go by a pizzeria where they sit down and they order a slice of pizza. And then here comes Art the Clown. And he sits down. He's focused on Tara. He's looking at Tara the whole time. And Don comes over, and wants to take a photo with him, but he won't take his eyes off Tara. Okay, so then he goes in the coin machine, this little, they're like where you can get a little prize thing, and he puts a quarter in, turns it, out comes this little plastic, takes out its ring. So he goes over and puts the ring on Don's head, not Don, but Tara's hand. And Tara's like, what are you doing? And Don goes, oh, look, he's proposing. Yeah, you got a new boyfriend. And yeah, and he gets really excited about it. And of course, then we find out what he did in the bathroom. It's quite disgusting. He literally wrote in his name he just messed up the bathroom and wrote on the wall in feces his name, Art the Clown. And he thinks it's hilarious. He really thinks he's funny at what he does. He likes an audience, as you'll come to find out. And so, as Tara wants to know what's in the bag. Well, you'll find out. And so, and then he disappears, and then those two, Tara and Don go back to I think it's Don's vehicle, and they notice tire slash, so they call Victoria, which is Tara's older sister, who's in college, and she goes, we need a ride, because, and they start discussing about Art the Clown, and thinking maybe, Tara thinks he might have been the one to slice the tire, and Don thinks, he's harmless, and so Tara needs to use the toilet, so she goes, go out there and squat, no one's going to notice. She don't want to piss in public. So then notices this guy coming out of the building, says, go ask him, and that's Mike. And I think he's a exterminator. And she convinced him to let her use the toilet, and it's a disgusting toilet, not very clean. She uses it, then she's walking around, and the news comes on about what happened at the pizzeria. Don hears the door open, is talking, turns, and there's Art the Clown, and then we hear her scream. Yeah. And then we go back to Tara, and she's walking through the building. She runs in, meets they call her the cat lady. And she shows her baby. And by the way, there's a point in Terrifier 2 where we meet it looks like a little girl. It turns out there was a girl killed, and it most likely was her daughter, because she names the daughter by her own daughter's name. And so we know that she lost her daughter and drove her kind of crazy. So this little doll is representing her daughter. And so, oh, and it's all practical effects. As Damien Lillian started in practical effects, he's talked about this first movie was really about him showing off what he can do on a low budget. I mean, it was a really low budget that he's crowdsourced to do the first movie. And then, I mean, the movie's over the top gory. I mean, there's a part where, Mike Levy, who's also a director, by the way, he shows up, he's trying to get, he gets killed. His death is awesome. He gets a knife through the head, and his head gets cut off. Art the Clown cuts his head off. And he enjoys what he's doing. And this is when he's still alive. So he's actually a serial killer. And that kill and the one at the diner, I mean, the pizzeria was really gory. He turned one guy into a jack-o'-lantern, hit the guy who ran the place, and the other guy, sees it after he cleaned the bathroom up. He comes out and he sees the head, and he tries to go call. He gets his hand cut off, and then he's basically murdered by Art the Clown. Gruesomely, it's bloody as hell. But the most famous kill comes to Dawn. And without a doubt, this is actually based on a real way that in the medieval times they killed someone, which was to have them hang upside down and cut them through. They figured you'd still be alive as the blood pooled down. Yeah. And so we get to the most, and he captures, at one point he's chasing Tara, and he captures her. Yeah. And she's tied to a chair, her mouth, and then he goes, I think it was pulls an axe, plays like he's going to hurt Tara, then he grabs a hacksaw, and he puts it to her throat, then he walks over, and he pulls the thing off, and Dawn's upside down, hanging by her feet, with her hands bound behind her back and her mouth gagged. And she's only wearing her underwear. Give it to Catherine. The fact that she was willing to do this, and apparently it was cold when they filmed this. Yeah. And so he basically you see the camera come up with the hacksaw, and Dawn sees this and knows what's about to happen. As Art the Clown, and this is graphic as hell, is sawing her, he's going and having a great time as he does it, as he's mocking Tara. And he gets to the head. I mean, literally, he saws her almost perfectly in half. Oh, he avoids actually cutting through the vagina. He cuts the side. Yeah. And as he's getting in the head, all of a sudden Tara starts to break free. He walks over. She attacks him and, stabs him in the back and gets away. Then Art the Clown, I'm talking about the cat lady, when he takes her baby because she goes and warns the Mike that, and he doesn't listen to her, thinks she's crazy about this clown and she does it right. He thinks he's funny. And so basically this is probably my scene I think is probably unsettling the way that Art's holding in, her doll. And she basically, have you ever felt a mother's touch? And what we find out later is, oh yeah, and Art the Clown kills Dawn. Yep. Outright just shoots her to death after she gets away. And then Vicky shows up. Yep. Tara's sister. And she's walking through, and then eventually she runs into what she thinks is a woman in distress, and the real cat lady's over, and she's been scalped and had her breasts removed. And Art sits up, and he's wearing her hair as a wig, and it's got her breast on. And by the way, David is naked for this. Yeah, he actually got naked. And so essentially later, Victoria's, she's running through. Oh yeah, he's on a tricycle, which is funny as hell. This tall guy is literally on a tiny tricycle, and it's funny as hell. Riding around on this while he's wearing clothing, while he's naked, and it's just funny. That's why you can't really call these horror movies, they're not horrifying. I mean, they can make you sick, but yeah. And eventually, Mike comes in and helps, and then he gets killed off with his head getting squashed in like a pumpkin. And then, Vicky gets to safety. Oh, and she sees it, finds her sister, and she's been shot to death with the word circus, and that came from the Terrifier short. Yep. And eventually, Vicky gets it where she thinks safe, and then all of a sudden, Art the Clown drives through, knocking her out. And by the time police get there, Art's eating her face. And instead of getting arrested, they tell him surrender, and they're yelling at him. So he pulls a gun and shoots himself in the head. Yeah. And he's taken the morgue, and he sort of looks up. He's missing his eye because he got stabbed in the eye. And, the coroner, all of a sudden lights go, and Art the Clown wakes up. And he grabs the coroner, and this is how the first movie ends. Okay. We come to, this is the poster for Terrifier 2. Just to let you know. That's. Now we get to the cast. And this is the much bigger cast than the first one. Victoria's still in it. And we, beginning that turned out to be Vicky. And then we follow the end of the first movie. Art the Clown's back from the dead. And he basically takes the corner and he basically rips his eye out and replaces the eye that he lost. He kills the corner, and then he's all covered in blood. There's the hole in the back of his head. He gets to a laundromat where, by the way, he actually takes his clothes off and is naked. Apparently, in real life, the police showed up because they didn't know they were making a movie. And and this is where we meet the blue-eyed girl, who turns out to actually be a demon. Damien actually did reveal that, yes, he was asked a question about the little pale girl. She is actually supposed to be, the little girl is supposed to be the Catwoman's daughter, who was killed by Art the Clown when he was a serial killer. And, he still is, but in this one he's resurrected. He sees the demon, it looks like the little pale girl, who is the representation of the demon coming this world, and then we meet our new heroine, the final girl, Sienna and Shaw, her brother, Jonathan, and their mother. I forget her mother's name. Barbara. Sarah here. She's in, and we find out that their father died, and she has not gotten over the loss of her father, and has kind of just turned into the opposite of what she used to be, which is kind of understandable when your husband supposedly, they try to imply that he killed himself, but he drew about Art the Clown and his daughter and everything being an angelic being to stop Art the Clown. Yeah. And we don't see Victoria Hayes at all for most of the movie till the very end. And we meet Brooke, who's Sienna's friend, really him, and poor Allie. When I say poor Allie, it is absolutely horrible what Art the Clown does to Allie. I mean, wow. We thought the hacksaw was gruesome. Nope, this kill is so over the top. Oh yeah, and this movie takes place a year after Terrifier. Yeah, where Jonathan's become obsessed about Art the Clown and everything, and looking in the journal their dad wrote, which showed pictures he drew of Art the Clown being a demon. Yes, he still got normal eyes until the third film, where he has more demon eyes. By the third film, he's actually a demon. And he created this sword. It looks like a Roman sword. Yeah, it's a short, Oh yeah, and there's one of the most weird. I don't call it weird. I love this scene. It's the clown cafe scene because it's like nobody is safe. Damien Lillian, children are not safe in his, and they aren't around Art the Clown. Oh god, it's so beautifully done. It's like the song is really kind of unsettling. Like, it's messed up. And so he takes a Tommy gun out. Sienna's there. It's like more like, it seems like a dream. And he shoots all the kids after giving out treats and everything to them, food and everything. And then he pulls out a small little flamethrower, and he basically sets on fire the lady who's singing this Clown Cafe song. Yeah. And we go back and forth, Art the Clown, and we're getting this story. It's 2 hours and 18 or 2 hours and 20 minutes long. It's longer than the first one. And yeah, and of course, there's only 3 people that can see the blue pill, the demon that takes the form of the little pale girl. That's Art the Clown, Sienna, and her brother Jonathan. Yeah. And nobody else can see the girl. And oh God, I love this movie. Yeah. And he kills a guy at the laundromat, stabs him in the head, and then when he's at this, I'm trying to think of the type of store it is. It's, he's at this store, and Sienna, this is the first time Sienna sees Art the Clown, and he's trying on different glasses, which is funny as hell. And give it to David. He's really good with it. He expresses, his facial expressions are such that it makes you actually like the character, even though he's a fucking psychopathic killer. And that's why he doesn't have to say anything. And he, messing with Sienna, and then, oh yeah, and then she has a dream about the Clown Cafe, and then she wakes up, and her wings and on her dresser, I'm not sure if that's her dresser, but where she had the wings and everything catch fire, and her mother freaks out and thinks that it was and she goes, no, the candles weren't lit. So yeah, this happened in her dream, and yeah, and Art the Clown laughs as he kills people. Yeah, and then we get, he also met Allie, and he goes to her house and he wants candy. And Allie won't do it because he's not a kid, but eventually gives in, tosses it at him. And later he comes back, she hears a crash, and he's broken in, and he's at the kitchen. He walks in the kitchen, drinks some water, and then turns around, holding two, and chases Allie. And oh dear God, it felt like this went on for 20 minutes. And it is so violent. He fucks out. Somehow she survived all this. And he basically breaks her and rips off her arm. He's cutting her. He scalps her. Yep. He just tears into her flesh and everything, cutting her and trying to. I swear to God, he wanted to skin her. And then he leaves as she's on the ground trying to get to the phone. Comes back with bleach and salt, and he literally pours bleach all over her, and then pours salt, and then rubs salt in the wound. That is some fucked up shit. And her mom comes upstairs, sees Art the Clown, and sees her daughter. It turns out her daughter's still fucking alive. That's how you know this stuff isn't scary. It's just fucking funny, because it's over the top. You give Casey a lot. Her, what a pro for her to go through that, for them to, do, yeah. And we eventually get the, where Brooke and her boyfriend and Sienna and her brother, they go to Terrifer, which is where the little pale girl, when she was alive, was murdered. They go to Terrifer, and Brooke, she walks after Brooke. He's killed her boyfriend horribly, and then he sort of slowly, he's not chasing after her, walking after her. He gets her cornered, and she thinks he's gonna hit her, and then he throws acid in her face, melts in her face, and just fucks her up and kills her. Oh yeah, horribly. And then we get the showdown. Oh, Jonathan gets fucked up, and then basically Sienna dies, and then is resurrected so that she can fight and they fight, and she then cuts off Art the Clown's head. Okay, you think, oh, that's the end of it. No, then apparently we go to the asylum where Chris Jericho plays security guard Burke, and he hears a noise and he goes, and Vicky has written on the wall in blood, Vicky and Art, with, you know, and a bunch of other words, and she's given birth to Art the Clown's head, and he opens his eye and smiles, and that's how the second movie ends. Yeah, great movie, by the way. Gory, beautiful. Yeah, and then we get this. This is the one of the posters for Terrifier 3. It is, in fact, a fucking Christmas movie. And this one takes everything to a level I would never have thought they could have taken the gore. Apparently people got sick in the second one. I didn't, but I can see where people get sick. It is very graphic. And then we get this movie, and it takes it to a level of absolute fucking insanity. And you have a few cameos in the movie. You have Tom Savini, he plays a bystander. Chris Jericho plays Burke again, and I'll get to what happens to him. Then you have Daniel Roebuck. He plays Santa Claus. And you get Clint Howard in a cameo. Okay, and the movie starts in 5 years after what happened in Terrifier 2, and it's a cold opening. And it is Art the Clown shows up at this house dressed as Santa Claus, and he takes an axe. And this, I'll give Damien credit, not showing the little boy being killed and you just hear him scream, and you hear Art the Clown hacking him to death. Actually, more effective when you see the aftermath than to actually see the kid get killed. I actually think that was clever of him. Just like in the movie at the mall where he blows up a bunch of kids. Yes, kids are not safe. And so we have Victoria is in this movie, but she's possessed by the demon. The little pale girl is now possessed Victoria. Yeah. So, yep, and Burke gets killed. Art's head and his body are separated. As showed, Vicky gave birth to Art, the clown's head, and it's eating the face. Yeah, and basically his body shows up and ripped off this police officer's head. Yep, because he showed up to investigate. There's Art's body. He takes and gets on the bus and holds the head like this. It's a black guy, by the way. And and then Burke comes down. He gets grabbed by the demon possessing Vicky, and she puts her fingers in his mouth like she's going to rip his jaw. And then you see Art the Clown's body without his head walk over, and they both rip his face off. Jericho gets a great kill in this movie. I mean, the kills in this movie are disgustingly over the top. But I'll say this, I'll say right now, as much as I love the chainsaw scene in this movie, I gotta say that what happens to Daniel Roebuck is possibly my favorite fucking fucked up kill for this whole movie. Yeah. But here's the thing, from the first to this movie, the only two people that returned for all three of these movies is Art the Clown, played by David Howard Thornton, and Samantha Scott, who played Victoria Hayes, who looks really fucked up. Yeah. And so this movie, from the opening, we get a cold opening, which is a family getting hacked to death. Oh, and the lady who plays the mom has such a great scream. Damien said that he dubbed her scream in for all the other women in the movie when they scream, which I thought was cool because she really does have a great scream. Yeah. And so what's happened is Sienna's been in a mental hospital. Jonathan got out. He's in college now, but they're both traumatized by what they went through. In the second movie, yeah, it's, the part where Vicky and Art escape the mental hospital is at the end, it's 5 years in the past. So we go in the future 5 years, and then we go back to before, back to the past of the second movie. And they get out and they go to this house that looks like this is where Art the Clown, his origins, from the first movie. Yeah, and basically they're going to hibernate for 5 years. Yeah, Art the Clown basically kind of gets annoyed with Victoria because, there's the old rat, her honking the horn, it annoys him. He's really getting fed up with Victoria, possessed Victoria. So Art goes upstairs, and this is a nod to Black Christmas. There's several nods to, there's Psycho, and so they go to sleep for 5 years. So Art sits in a rocking chair in the attic, and possessed Vicky goes in the basement in a tub. She breaks the mirror, takes a piece of glass, she sits down and cuts herself this way, bleeding out. Yeah. And we go to 5 years where we see Sienna, her uncle. She's picking her up. Jonathan's in college. They haven't seen each other. Jonathan and Sienna have not seen each other because they're both really damaged by PTSD. This works really well for the movie because it shows that she has been Sienna's, she's like anyone else, fucked up by what happened in the second movie. And so, and then we get, these, I guess they show up to this, two guys show up to the house where Victoria and Art are, and they wake up. And basically, Victoria kills the black guy. Oh yeah, he messes with this guy and says, why are you so weird, acting so weird and everything? And he tells him the story about how there was a killer in the house, killed a bunch of kids and buried in the basement. And tells him, I'm just fucking with you. And so the younger guy, white guy, goes up to the attic and he sees Art the Clown. And he goes, hey, there's somebody up, And then Art the Clown wakes up and he proceeds to fuck this guy up. Yeah, he kills him. And Victoria kills the black guy. Yep. And and Art the Clown decides to create a new form of a fire extinguisher using liquid nitrogen. Yes, he creates a way to freeze things so he can destroy it. Yeah, he does it to a rat. And by the way, no real rats were harmed in the making of the film. Just to put that in your mind at ease. And so, yeah. And then we go back to Sienna being her uncle, getting her out, taking her back to his home, because she's going to live with them since their mother's dead. And this is her aunt, her mother's sister. Yeah, and her cousin's there. I'll give it. The actress who plays Gabby is actually really good. That's her right here. Oh, that's young Sienna. Okay. I'm trying to find Gabby. This is Gabby right here. She's great in the movie. Nobody gives a bad performance, by the way. Nobody. And Jason Patrick plays Michael's, Sienna and Jonathan's father. Yeah, Jason Patrick, the actor. Yep. And I'll just say this. The kills in this movie, oh my God, they ramped up. The beginning movie where Art the Clown kills this family is, yeah, like I say, it doesn't show, we don't see the boy killed. We just see the aftermath. And then he walks in and kills the father in bed. And he groans. She wakes up and sees the blood. And then, her husband's turned towards her. And Art the Clown is basically hacking him to death and cutting through his head. Then she runs. She's screaming for her daughter. Oh, yeah. Close the door. And then Art the Clown, this is a reference to what was it? Oh, my God. The Shining, where Jack Nicholson takes an axe through the door and goes, here's Johnny. Well, Art puts almost the same exact, through the door, and then he peers through it. Kind of that, there's your reference to, yeah. And he fucks this woman up. I swear, I might have mistaken this. I thought she says to him, kill me now. So he hacks her, he hits her with the axe in the back, and then, he hits her in the stomach, and she goes down to the ground, and Art basically and you hear her scream, he hacks this woman to death, and then he sits down and eats cookies, yes, and he's so kind and curious, he cleans the plate, yes, he cleans up after himself, and then he hears we never see what happens to the girl, most likely Art killed her. And then we go back to Sienna coming home, trying, all that stuff. And then, Art goes and he's walking and he sees at a bar Santa, and he gets really excited. And he walks in, he's like, and of course the bartender's an asshole. He gives a sort of look like, I'm going to kill your ass. And he says, of course, when he takes a drink of alcohol, he spits it in Santa Claus's face because he doesn't like the taste of alcohol. Yeah. And he pees on Santa Claus's leg, and they get mad, and Santa Claus wanted to kick his ass. And basically, the bartender wants to throw him out, and he pulls out a pistol, and this is a reference to Terrifer 1 when he killed Tara by shooting her to death. He shoots both the bartender and Clint Howard. Yeah. And then he ties Santa Claus and gets his uniform, puts it on, ties him to a chair. And then he decides he's going to fuck things up. Oh, he's going to kill him in a gruesome way, which is he uses his liquid nitrogen fire extinguisher to freeze his body, legs, hand, and he takes a hammer and he's just pounding on him, and basically flesh is coming off. He just fucks him up, and he's screaming as it's going on. He's I have a family, and Art don't care. And he's like, rolling his eyes, and then he takes the face, and the guy's still alive, by the way. He looked kind of like Victoria, so he takes in a carrot. This is funny. He puts it in to replace his nose. Yep. And Art likes to have an audience when he does these things, because he believes he's doing the right thing. And okay. We get back to Jonathan. He's in college, and he walks in on his roommate, Cole, making out with Mia. And Mia can be a bitch, but she's a likable bitch. And she goes, oh, you're Jonathan, and asks him to come on her podcast so that they can talk about what happened with Art the Clown and everything. And we find out that she actually, this woman is on Mia's podcast saying that, Sienna committed the murder. No, she didn't. Where's the body? The body walked up and he goes, well, you can't prove that. That doesn't make any sense. And if Jonathan hadn't testified, Sienna would have gotten life in prison. No, she didn't do it. But, and Maya actually defends Sienna and said, no, she definitely didn't do that. That's why it's actually tragic what happens to her and Cole. Yeah. When I said that you thought the hacksaw scene was gruesome, you thought the, Allie that was fucked up. Oh no, nothing beats Psycho with a chainsaw. Oh yeah, Sienna's basically, we get to the mall scene where Sienna goes to the mall with her cousin Gabby, and they're buying Christmas gifts and everything, and then she sees, and it's obvious it's Art the Clown wearing a mask to hide the fact that it's Art the Clown. She starts having a panic attack because she knows that's Art the Clown. And then they leave and they go back home, and she doesn't say anything because they would have locked her up and not believed her. So then, she talks to her cousin because her cousin mentioned something that she hadn't told anybody about, that she don't eat cereal because of Clown Cafe in the second movie. Yeah, it turned her off to cereal. And her cousin admits she read the journal because she wanted to know what she went through. And she put it back, and she's not going to tell anybody. So when they're downstairs play Pictionary, she calls over to her uncle to come over, and he's watching the news, and what happened was, Art came in as Santa, gave out a bunch of toys to kids, and when he gets harassed by a security guard and pushed out, one kid opens, says, what did I get from Santa? Opens it, and boom! Yep, he injures and kills kids by using a present bomb. Yeah. So he's like, oh my God. And Sienna freaks out and goes, Art, he was there at the... Yeah, she's having a meltdown. They don't believe her. Yeah. And she got, and then they, put her down, and because of everything with Sienna freaking out and everything, Jonathan goes and takes his medication and falls asleep. And Sienna's having a meltdown, and she's giving and she goes to sleep. And she talks to her brother and says that, their uncle's coming to pick him up. She's worried that something could happen to him. So she's upstairs sleeping, and we see that Cole and Mia are in the shed. Oh yeah, there's a scene where Art the Clown shows up to the fraternity. Yeah, and Jonathan's sleeping, by the way, and he eavesdrops on the conversation between Mia and Cole. And Art the Clown, she goes, he's like, and Art's like, oh my god. It's like when someone says, oh, you're so famous, you go, oh please, no. And she brings up that he's even more famous than Jack the Ripper, and he acts like, oh, and then Cole points out, oh, you want to fuck him, and, oh, yeah, and he goes, no, he goes, kind of gets upset at that, the fact that Mia doesn't want to sleep with him. So then we get probably single-handedly, probably the most gruesome kills in the movie, and it will remind you of Psycho. Is that me and Cole are in the shower? Sienna's actually falling asleep. Yeah, and it's supposed to imply that she's dreaming this, but she's not. And then, obviously we're focused. And then in comes Art the Clown. He's walking around. He sees in the shower, and he puts his bag down, pulls out a fucking chainsaw. He gets near there. He starts, doing the cord. And eventually starts up and he breaks through the glass and he fucks them up. He cuts off Cole's hand, like his fingers, and I think it's on his right hand. And basically he made a cut, I think, in his hand, his arm, but not all the way through. And then as he's trying to run, he cuts his leg, and not all the way through. So he falls down and he's on the ground, and then Mia screams, and he basically fucks her up with that chainsaw. He cuts her, and then after all the things where he scalped her with the chainsaw, she pointed out that she wanted to see Art the Clown, and then he's really that close to her. And then he basically, oh yeah, and she's still alive, by the way. Yep, and he turns her head. Oh, and the scene with Tom Savini is he's talking to a reporter about what happened with the bombing at the mall, that this Santa Claus, which is Art the Clown, or Santa Art, was giving out presents, and then boom, they blew up as the security was harassing the clown. But yeah, and basically Damien basically decides to reenact Don's death, but instead of a hacksaw, it's a chainsaw, because he put that chainsaw into Cole's ass. By the way, he's still fucking alive at this point. Oh yeah, he rips off most of the severed leg of Cole, and tosses it away, and then he turns him over and takes the chainsaw and he goes down through and does the same thing. He goes right near the genitals, so you see them, and he cuts all the way through, and then cuts the head, and then sits down, makes a blood angel. Yeah. And then, Sienna, and then the uncle shows up to, pick up Jonathan, and he goes, well, I can't see you, and he goes, I'm sitting outside where you told me to, and then he says, I'll be right out, and then we can tell that's actually Vicky, possessed Vicky. We see nothing else, and then Sienna wakes up, goes downstairs because she hears what sounds like her aunt and uncle arguing and talking about they want to get rid of her, and then she comes downstairs, comes to the kitchen, and Vicky turns around and goes, I forgot what she said. Yeah, crazy. Oh, I think she called her crazy, and we see her aunt's tied down, and then Art basically fucks her up and knocks her out, and they tie her in a chair. Funny thing about this is Art, every time he walks by, he slaps her in the back of the head and tells her, shh. And Vicky, basically, the demon possessing Vicky, wants to possess Sienna. That's right. The whole thing is to get her body. Oh, yeah. So this last part of the movie, they do a pretty cool thing to Sienna's aunt. Because remember, she's tied to a chair, her mouth, tape over her mouth, And yeah. And so, yeah. And they put, her mother, it says, if you scream, bitch, I will rip your tongue out. So Jen, and takes off the tape, and she goes, and stands behind her, holding her head like she's going to break her neck, and she goes, Sienna, fucking kill both of these. And they put a plastic thing, Art does, in her mouth, and then beat it down, and you can see it split in her mouth. And then he has a flamethrower, a small torch, and Victoria grabs a rat, put it in the tube, and then lights behind it so it goes down, and you see it go in her throat, then another one, and then Victoria goes like this to Sienna, and basically walks and grabs a knife, comes back and slits her throat, and allowing the rats to come out, and then Art stomps on them, killing them. Yeah, you hear them getting squashed. And then, they present in front of her aunt and Sienna, a head. And they're sort of implying that's supposed to be Gabby, but we can tell that's not Gabby, that's Jonathan. And, her mother even says, and Sienna's aunt says, that's not my daughter, because it's not, it's Jonathan. Yeah, Victoria killed Jonathan and took his head. And so she reveals that that's actually Jonathan, and they take out the tape, and of course she screams, about her brother, and they grab Gabby, and they're about to kill her, and she goes, oh, well, Sienna needs to open my present. Go, that's not right. So they grab the present, which is wrapped, and then points out that Gabby is not good at wrapping things. And then gives it, and then Art basically takes this mallet and hits her hand, fucking him up. And then she opens it and goes, best gift ever. And it's the sword, and she cuts Art's throat, and then basically undoes herself, and then tosses into the chat, and then goes, how does this taste? Stabs her mouth, and then cuts her head off. And then her and Art, the clown, go at it. I mean, yeah, it's pretty violent. He uses a chainsaw, she's got her little sword, and then Victoria's body starts to melt and causes the ground blow. And as Sienna's stabbing Art and killing him, the ground break, and her cousin is holding on. She has to give up killing Art to save her cousin, and she fails. And she, essentially the movie ends where Art's on a bus, and then going back to essentially the ninth circle. The first time we see Art, he honks a horn, and that's how the movie ends. It's a gory fight, and people actually got sick. I get it. It's gory. Some people can't handle this. I love this stuff. So, yeah, these movies are fantastic. And he did say there will be a fourth one. And he finds a way to top himself every time. Yeah, Clint Howard played Smokey. And he said, I don't want to just shove a bunch of movie actors for cameos. They have to fit the story. That's why you have Tom Savini, Clint Howard, Daniel Roebuck, and Jason Patrick, because they fit within the structure of the stories. I'm trying to remember John Abrams' character in the movie. I mean, they give him names and everything. Wait, was he the father? He might have been the father who gets killed in the bed. It might have been John Abrams. I think Jennifer's the mother. Yeah, that's the mother. Yeah, that's the mother. I think he's the father. And, yeah. I love this movie. I was like, I've seen it 3 times. So, yeah, I pretty much given you a synopsis of my review is these movies are gorgeous, practical effects. It reminds you of Tom Savini. You can tell that. The Soska sisters are the same way. They don't like CGI. They like practical gore effects, Yeah, so I just want to do this review of the whole thing right now, up to date. Yeah, so I recommend you see Terror. If you love this stuff, go see it. You might not be able to handle the gore effects because they are practically believable that this is, Just remember, it's just a movie. It's not real. It's, this stuff is so over the top that there's no way anybody could survive. So I just want to do this review of Terrifier, all the Terrifier stuff. So this is Gilgamesh. I will talk to you later. Bye.